We're starting with one of the most metal executions ever recorded. 1514, Hungary. György Daza, a cavalry captain, had been sent to gather peasants and fight against the Ottomans. But instead of marching into war like a good soldier, he pulled a plot twist worthy of Game of Thrones. He sided with the peasants and led a full-blown rebellion against the Hungarian nobility. And the nobles? Yeah, they did not like that. When Daza was finally captured, they decided a quick death was way too merciful. They stripped him completely naked, forced him to sit on a red-hot iron throne, and just to add insult to injury, they gave him a burning hot crown and scepter, mocking him, saying, "You wanted to be king? Congratulations, here's your throne." But they weren't done. They dragged out his younger brother, hacked him to death right in front of him. Then they took red-hot pliers and tore chunks of Daza's flesh off, feeding it to the very peasants who once followed him. And if they refused, they were cut into pieces on the spot. By the time they were done, Daza was cooked alive on that throne, his screams echoing through the square. The message? Never, ever betray the nobility again. Peter Neers, 1581. This guy was basically the boogeyman of Germany. Peter Neers was a bandit, serial killer, and straight-up monster who confessed, after being captured, to 544 murders. Yeah, you heard that right. 544. And this man wasn't just a killer. He was a sadist, a cannibal, and allegedly performed black magic rituals using his victims. The people of Germany were so terrified of him that when they finally caught him, they put him through one of the most sadistic executions imaginable. It lasted 3 whole days. Day 1, his flesh was torn off with red-hot pincers, then boiling oil was poured into the open wounds. Day 2, his feet were coated in hot oil, then roasted over glowing coals until the bones were showing. Day 3, they tied him to a wooden wheel, then smashed every single bone in his body with a heavy iron wheel, 42 blows from head to toe, until he was just a pile of broken bones, still alive. Finally, they left him on display until he died, a broken heap of a man who had once terrorized an entire country. The death of Mithridates, 401 BC. This one is just disgusting. Mithridates was a soldier who served under King Artaxerxes II of Persia. At first, the king loved him. Mithridates was the guy who killed Cyrus the Younger, the king's brother, during a battle. But then Mithridates made one fatal mistake. At a feast, he got drunk and bragged to everyone that he, not the king, had killed Cyrus. The king took that as an insult and decided to punish him with one of the most horrifying execution methods ever invented, scaphism. Here's how it went down. They took 2 hollowed-out canoes and placed Mithridates inside, sandwiching his body so that only his head, arms, and legs stuck out. Then they smeared him, head to toe, with milk and honey. At first, it just sounds humiliating, right? But then the bugs came. Flies, ants, and every insect within miles started swarming him, biting, stinging, laying eggs in his flesh. He was left floating on a pond, unable to move, forced to drink milk and honey, and defecate all over himself. After a few days, the insects had completely covered him. After a week, they started burrowing inside him. Eggs hatched inside his body. Worms and maggots began to eat him alive from the inside out. This went on for 17 days, until finally death took him. By that point, there wasn't much left to bury. Robert-François Damiens, 1757. Robert-François Damiens tried to assassinate King Louis XV by stabbing him with a tiny penknife. He barely injured the king, but in France, trying to kill the king was still a death sentence. And the French wanted to make sure everyone remembered this one. First, Damien was tortured for hours. His skin ripped with red-hot pincers, boiling oil and molten lead poured into the wounds, his hand burned with sulfur. But that was just the warm-up. When it came time for the main event, they tied each of his limbs to 4 horses, then drove the horses in opposite directions. When his body didn't rip apart quickly enough, they sliced his armpits and groin to make it easier. Eventually, his arms and legs tore free, leaving only a screaming torso, and somehow, he was still alive. Embarrassed that the community couldn't finish the job, the executioners threw what was left of him into a fire. He burned to death in front of the cheering crowd. And if you think executions like György Daza or Mithridates are ancient nightmares, wait till you hear about Balthazar Gerard execution. Balthazar Gerard, 1584. This man assassinated Prince William of Orange and instantly became one of the most hated men in Dutch history. When they captured him, they didn't just execute him, they tortured him for 3 days straight. Day 1, he was whipped until his skin split open, then smeared with honey so goats could lick the wounds. Day 2, his feet were forced into leather shoes and burned over a fire until the shoes shrank and crushed his bones. Day 3, they tore off his skin, burned his armpits with hot irons, sliced off his genitals, ripped out his intestines, and finally cut out his heart, and threw it in his face. By the time it was over, Gerard wasn't even recognizable as human. but to the Dutch, justice had been served. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more videos like this one, and feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.